This happened back when I was in high school a long time ago. We lived in this house that was way out sort of in the country. Our property was pretty large and we did have neighbors, but their houses were pretty far away. It was a quiet town located near some farms and things like that. That's what makes this story so strange. I was a freshman in high school at the time, and I remember that my parents had to go to this wedding that was out of state. They left me and my older sister home for just a few days because we still had school and stuff. On one of the nights that my parents were gone, my sister went to her friend's house. I wasn't really sure how late she would be gone or if she was staying overnight or what, but I was just hanging out at home. I remember that I made a frozen pizza and I was in the living room. Our house was sort of a split level, so the living room was upstairs. At about 9 o'clock at night, I heard a knock at our front door. Immediately, this was very strange. This might not be weird for a normal neighborhood, but way out there we never had anybody knocking on the door. Our driveway was also super long and far away from the street. There would hardly ever be any cars on the street if it wasn't someone who lived there, and nobody really lived that close to our house. And that, with the fact that I was home alone, made me very concerned. I didn't immediately get up and see who was there, but after like 10 seconds, whoever was there knocked again. So at that point, I got up and I went over to my bedroom, which happened to sort of overlook the front door area. It was above it, so I felt safer looking from there. When I got to the window and looked out of it though, there was nobody at the front door. I looked around near the area and I looked around the driveway as well. I didn't see anyone. I didn't think that whoever had knocked would have had enough time to go all the way back down the driveway by then. I couldn't see to the street though, because we had these thick pine trees like a line in the front edge of our yard. That made me nervous that perhaps the person had gone someplace else in our front yard or something. I had absolutely no idea who could have knocked on the door. It wasn't my sister because she had a key to get in. I just went back to the living room after that and hoped that everything would be fine. And it was for the most part. I'm not going to lie, I was pretty nervous as it got later and later. I went over and checked the windows a few times, but I never saw anybody. At like midnight, I was still awake and my sister got home. I was glad that she was back. However, when she got inside, she told me that there was a car parked outside on the side of the street. You couldn't really see it from inside the house because of the trees. I asked her if anybody was inside of it and she said that she couldn't tell. I told her about the knocks on the door. We figured that they had to be related, but thankfully nothing else happened. By the next day, the car was gone and there were no more knocks on the door or anything. It's still the creepiest thing that's ever happened to me when I was home by myself though. Last year, I was living by myself in an apartment building. I lived on the second floor in a typical one-bedroom place. I worked many different hours at my job, and we usually get home sometime in the afternoon or night. On this night in particular, I left work sort of late. I just remember that I was tired and it had been a really long shift. I got back to my apartment, parked my car, and then went up to my place. When I went inside though, I realized that I had forgot my phone. It sometimes would fall out of my pocket when I was getting out of my car, usually on the driver's seat. I was annoyed but quickly left my place and went back down outside to the parking lot. I got my phone from inside of my car and then I went back in my apartment. After that, I was pretty tired. What I really wanted to do the most was just go to sleep, so I started to get ready for bed at that point. It was during this time that I thought I heard a noise from the other end of my apartment. I wasn't really 100% sure though because I was brushing my teeth. I didn't know for a fact if it was from inside my apartment or maybe from the neighbors next door. It really kind of sounded like it was from mine though. I stopped and then looked over but saw nothing. I didn't hear any other noises either, so I just continued to brush my teeth. After that, I went into my bedroom to go to sleep. Maybe it was because I was really tired, but I pretty much just completely brushed off the noise that I heard, or that I thought I heard. After going into my bedroom though, I was sure that I heard another noise. I couldn't really tell what exactly it was though. My lights were all off at this point now. I walked out of my bedroom and then I looked into the living room and kitchen area. The apartment was not that big, so if the lights were on, I would have been able to see the whole thing, but they were not. When I looked though, I saw that there was someone definitely walking through the living room towards the front end of the apartment. I was so surprised that I didn't know what to do for a second. I couldn't really see any details on them because all the lights were out, but I could just see the movement really. Then, as I was still standing there, I turned the light switch on. When I did, I suddenly saw a man who I did not recognize walking to the front door of my apartment. He quickly opened up the door and then went outside and left. After he was gone, I went over to the door and I locked it. I was so confused as to what had just happened. At first, I had no idea how the man got into my apartment, and I thought maybe he had been there all day. I figured that he had to have been hiding in the coat closet in order for me to not see him. I looked around and nothing was stolen or anything. I called the police and reported the incident. I was not tired at all anymore, but wide awake. When the police were there and I was talking to them, I remembered how I had forgot my phone in the car. When I went to get it, I was only gone for like a minute, if that, so I didn't lock my apartment door. That must have been how the man was able to get inside. I'm not sure if he had just been in the apartment building or if he had maybe followed me home or something without me noticing. I hadn't been paying the greatest of attention to my surroundings. But after the police talked to me, they looked around the complex and were not able to find the man. I was really hoping that they would. Nothing else like that happened when I lived in the apartment. I moved and live in another apartment now. I live alone in a house and have lived here for 2 years now. This is an event that took place several months back and it's still very fresh in my memory. So it was nighttime and I was alone in my house and in my bedroom. The house is not very large and my room is on the ground level. As I was watching TV and sitting on my bed, it was starting to get late and was maybe 11 or 12. Because it was late, things were very quiet aside from the volume on my TV, which was not that loud. All of a sudden, I heard this noise from the back end of my house. It sounded like maybe from the backyard, and it seemed like somebody had hit a back window. Before I could compute what was going on in my head though, I heard glass breaking. The sound was coming from the same area. Then I knew that somebody was breaking in. My first reaction at that point was to run to my bedroom door and lock it, which I did. I heard whoever had gotten in the house was still at the back side of it. Then my next course of action was to dial 911. I went over and located my phone, which was also on my bed. I quickly scrambled to dial for the police. Then I went to the back corner of my room. As soon as someone answered the phone, I said that my house was being broken into. I gave my address, but I spoke as quietly as I could. I didn't really hear anything during that time as far as where the intruder was, but maybe 30 seconds later, I heard the footsteps approaching the hallway where my bedroom is. Then, moments later, they arrived right outside my door. I muted the phone and tossed it aside in a panic. I didn't want them to hear me. Then, the intruder tried opening my bedroom door. That got me really scared because I had hoped that maybe they wouldn't want to be seen. I felt like they knew I was in here, but possibly they just wanted to see what was in the room. Maybe they just wanted to steal stuff. But now they were coming straight for me. After the door did not open from being locked, I heard a loud man's voice. He yelled for me to open the door now. It was very angry, and of course, I was not going to do that. After a few seconds, he banged on the door very hard 2 times. At that point, I just wanted to get out of there. I debated trying to open my bedroom window and jump out of it, or I could look around and see if I had anything to use as a weapon. I didn't really have much of anything though. I was heading over to the window and the guy started to walk away. Then I stopped. If he was leaving, I didn't want to run into him out of the house. I wasn't sure where he was going though or what he was doing, but I was just moving off of instincts at that point. My mind barely was even thinking at all. I don't even know how long this went on, but I was basically just pacing around and listening for the man. I didn't really hear much though. After I have no idea how long, I heard my back door opening. Then, probably like 30 seconds to a minute later, I heard noises out front. I still thought that it was the man, but it was actually the police. They came inside and I finally left my room. After searching the house, the man had left out the back door just a short time earlier. Some other cops searched the neighborhood and were able to find the man. He was caught just a block away, which made me feel 100 times better. I didn't know who he was or why he chose to break into my house. I'm really glad that my bedroom door had a lock on it though. If not, I'm not sure what would have happened.